So we're back again to talk about how energy flows through forest ecosystems. Last time we talked about ecosystem producers, the organisms that produce their own energy from just air, sunlight, and water. Do you remember what that process is called? Yeah, photosynthesis. So this time we're going to talk about the next step up the energy chain, organisms that can't make their own energy. These creatures have to get energy by consuming other living organisms, so we call them consumers. So, how are consumers connected to other parts of the ecosystem? Let's start by looking a little bit closer at animals, all of which are biotic consumers. I tend to think of dogs or birds when I think of animals, but lizards, fish, insects, and zooplankton are actually all animals too. But flowers and trees are not animals, right? They're plants. So what's the difference? Well, animals can't make their own energy. They have to consume other organisms to get energy. So like we said earlier, all animals are consumers. We put animals in categories based on their diet, or what they eat. And you may have heard of some of these categories before. An herbivore is an animal that eats plants. Think of squirrels, cows, and grasshoppers. Carnivores, on the other hand, are animals that mostly eat meat. That is to say, they eat other consumers, including herbivores. Cougars, garter snakes, and salmon are all carnivores that live around the Greenway. Omnivores are animals that eat a mix of producers and consumers. Fun fact, you may think of a black bear as a carnivore, but they're actually omnivores. They eat both other carnivores, like salmon, and plants, like berries. But wait, don't animals like cows and chickens produce food that people eat? Shouldn't that make them producers? Well, remember, whether an organism is a producer or consumer depends on where it gets its own energy, not whether it's food for us. Since cows and chickens and other animals that we eat get their own energy from eating other organisms, like grass and bugs, they're consumers. One way to figure out which organisms in an ecosystem are producers and which are consumers is by drawing a simple food chain. A food chain is a way to think about how energy flows through an ecosystem based on who eats what. Let's try it out. We always start with the sun because that's where all energy in an ecosystem begins. What's an organism that could get its energy from the sun? Maybe this huckleberry plant gets its energy from the sun. Then a Douglas squirrel comes along and eats some of the berries. After that, a red-tailed hawk swoops down and eats the squirrel. So which of these organisms are producers and which are consumers? The huckleberry is a producer because it got its energy directly from the sun. The squirrel and hawk are consumers because they had to eat other organisms to get their energy. You might notice that a consumer can eat producers or they can eat other consumers. But no matter if you're a producer or a consumer, if you trace it back far enough through the food chain, pretty much everybody gets their energy from the sun at some point. So, how can we be stewards of consumers in a forest? Keep learning about them. We as humans are part of the forest ecosystem too, so the more you understand about the connections between you and the other people and organisms we share this place with, the better you'll be able to take care of it. Another good way to be a steward is by protecting habitat, the places where both producers and consumers live. We have to use up some habitat for ourselves to build places to live in, but by paying attention to the needs of other organisms as we build, only taking as much as we need, and doing our best to restore habitats, we can be forest stewards. In your everyday life, you can also help protect habitat for our forest consumers by picking up trash and telling others about what you've learned. After you finish this video, spend some time studying yourself as a consumer. Write down everything you eat for a day and categorize it by whether it's from a producer or a consumer. You can make a table like this and fill it in after you eat. For example, if I had a sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich this morning for breakfast, the sausage, eggs, and cheese all came from consumers, whereas the English muffin came from producers. Try doing this for all your meals and snacks for a few days. Do you eat more producers or consumers? Would you classify yourself as an herbivore, one who only eats producers, a carnivore, one who only eats consumers, or an omnivore, one who eats both producers and consumers? Next, when you visit your sit spot, notice what consumers you see. Are they mostly bugs, birds, mammals? What are they eating? Send us your lists and observations at education@mtsgreenway.org, and we'll share some of your ideas on our social media. And don't forget to watch our next video to learn more about another biotic part of the ecosystem, the decomposers. All right, I'll see you later.